You kind of look back and reflect, and it's either people or projects that change your perspective on what you're doing, and they kind of influence you. I think it's a super creative industry. You've got so many different disciplines all working together, and I think we should be kind of grateful and thankful that we've kind of fallen into this industry that you probably didn't even know was there when you was kind of growing up, just because you see so many different things. The offices are only going to become more and more important, but if you put an environment where you've got so many generations working together, everybody contributes and everybody learns from each other, and that's an enriching environment for everybody, whether you're towards the end of your career or kind of just starting out. And then when you kind of put all the dots together, you realise that, you know, winning business is not just about having the best design, it's about having the best team around it, and they all kind of come together. I would say, and I'm sure people who are in the furniture industry, it's a very easy way of losing money. It only takes one specification code number out of sequence, and you're having something turning up pink instead of blue. And we're designing and delivering a design and build project outside the UK. We're in contract, we're the principal contractor, we're owning that project, and we're using local supply chain to deliver it, but we own that kind of project. So that's the kind of key that we do. And kind of in my career is working with a team of people that have got around. We have our moments, but fundamentally, you know, they're an amazing bunch. And, you know, seeing what we can do is kind of spectacular. You see some of the projects that we've done. Thank you very much for having me on.
No,
great to be here. So, bookending my journey. I guess I'm 53, by the way. Came in.
53.
Yeah, thank you very much. Looking for compliments. So I came in as a furniture designer, and I'm now managing director of Area International Design and Build. So anything outside the UK, we kind of work that. So I guess it's filling in the gaps in between.
That's one hell of a journey, by the way. It sounds of it. I mean, you've said it like that, but I'm sure there's a lot in between there.
Well, I guess there's little steps. Like, you kind of look back and reflect, and it's either people or projects that change your perspective on what you're doing, and they kind of influence you. Whether you have a kind of a clear path of where you're going to go about something, which some people do, which is fantastic. I guess mine was more kind of luck or happenstance or something along those lines. So I guess kind of coming back in, so kind of 95, 90.
The year I was born.
Oh my God.
Sorry for that.
so oh gosh, I'll kind of fast forward how I kind of got here. So I think we're kind of just chatting, you know, kind of my background, kind of northeast Derbyshire. My wife now 25 years, she's kind of knocked that accent out of me, so coming down south. I think kind of growing up where I did, very working class, you kind of had a career path that's kind of mines, industry, or kind of one of the services. I think I was probably about kind of 15. And can you imagine it now, like 3 months off with my younger cousin and my granddad to go and see my auntie in Australia. So I had 3 months out. So up until that time, I'm thinking, I'm just going to go in the army. You know, that's kind of my career path. That's kind of what's going to happen. You come back from that, and maybe it's a travel thing, completely different kind of perspective on what life could be.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, sorry to interrupt, but there's a couple of people I've recorded with who have said exactly the same thing, that they did a bit of travelling, or they experienced different cultures around the world, and it changed their perspective on how they view the world. So when they came back to the UK, they're a little bit more aligned with, you know, what they wanted to do or who they wanted to be as a person. Yeah,
up until that point, you know, I kind of hadn't really seen much, and you just kind of live in that pool of kind of what you know. You know, I had a pretty free childhood. I mean, fields, motorbikes, air rifles, wandering around. It was kind of all there.
And how funny is that, by the way, that you had a free child like that, but the childhood that I would imagine people might be having nowadays, where it's not so much like that. It's all very indoors. It's very monitor-led, screen time.
You know what? When you said you're kind of 95, I'm thinking, you know, it wasn't a bad time for me to kind of grow up, because there wasn't. You could make mistakes, and they're not recorded. People haven't captured that, so you could be a bit of a fool, bit of an idiot, and you're not going to pay consequences by it being posted somewhere. So all that was kind of freedom, and you know, you know, when you look back, it was kind of you just kind of got on with things and made you quite resilient and kind of self-sufficient in terms of that. I think quickly on the school days, you know, younger, struggled with academic side of things, English still very poor, secondary school, would be terrified really when it kind of came to the kind of reading out in class. And kind of, I always got a notebook or something with me, but over-preparing, reading ahead, so I didn't look like the kind of class clown if I was kind of reading out, stumbling on my words. So that's always kind of stuck with me, and maybe a little bit of Achilles heel that, you know, don't want to kind of fail in that or kind of look a little bit stupid when actually when you get further on in your life, failing and learning is the kind of best way to kind of go. But that's kind of like stuck there. So kind of fast forwarding, I had a great art teacher, Bob Widgery. So the other things that I stumbled at, and I think I say that to kids themselves, you know, you can't be good at everything. Something will come in life that just kind of makes a difference. And for me, I could pick up a pen or pick up a pencil and I could draw. I could kind of do something. And that was great. And that was my kind of way out.
That's incredible talent though, because I am the complete opposite. Like if you gave me some crayons or pens or anything, I wouldn't even know where to start to draw anything. Even if you asked me to draw something simple like an animal, I'd be stuck. I'd be like, I don't really know how to do this.
I tell you, it became my happy zone, because when you kind of sixth form, you'd have lunch break, but I'd be in the art studio, and then you'd have a double kind of period, and that would be all afternoon doing something you really like. So that was what I kind of really latched onto. And it was the first time that you thought, actually, that could be something different. It may not kind of inform where I might thought I was going to go. There was something else that was happening. And just on Bob Widgery, we kind of stayed in touch when I went to kind of fast forward a little bit into kind of uni. But he was great. So at that time, you'd use crayon pens, colouring pens and those ones. He used to buy those through the school at a certain rate. I'd buy them off him at this discounted rate and then flog them when back at uni to all the people who needed to buy them. So I was kind of outdoing people. I mean, it's a bit naughty. And we also worked in the workshops, and you had to have kind of safety glasses. And my dad working at the pit was able to get me safety glasses. So I was able to kind of undercut the kind of ones selling those ones. So there's a little bit kind of going on the side. So then you kind of went to what was kind of Chesterfield Tech, and that was an art and design foundation course. Again, I'd recommend that to anybody. I went there thinking I was going to be kind of a fine artist. I was going to be, kind of the best. And then you got there, and then you meet more people, and then you see some ones who are, incredibly talented, and you go, I'm not going to cut it in that one. And then the design element kind of came into that kind of three-dimensional side of it, and you can try different things, and you think, gosh, there's a whole world out there of possibility. And that kind of led on to kind of three-dimensional design, and then ended up going to what was Leicester Poly at the time. Polytechnics all turned into kind of universities. So I went to a poly, doing furniture design, product design, and then ended up coming out of a university. So it just kind of how it changed. But what was really interesting about that period of time, we were in a studio 9 to 5. So you went to uni and you're in a studio at 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock at night. And you're working with your peers and you're seeing things. And that kind of collaboration, I guess, has stayed with me as a imperative throughout what you do.
Interesting.
I think if you're in a creative industry and, fast forward to design and build, I think it's a super creative industry. You've got so many different disciplines all working together. And I think we should be kind of grateful and thankful that we've kind of fallen into this industry that you probably didn't even know was there when you was kind of growing up, just because you see so many different things.
And you say creative industry as well. I'm sure we'll talk about it further down the line, but even the first thing that comes to my mind is even when you've got such like an M&E run going above a ceiling, and the way that the routes that it's got to go to be able to facilitate everything that's going on within the building that's been built, like that's a creation in itself. But it's just not seen like that for some reason.
Do you know something? Maybe it's my kind of OCD element to it. We do a lot of projects with exposed services. And when you come onto a site and you see an exposed service run that looks beautiful and you're kind of looking around, it kind of stands out. When you see one that's just been lashed together.
It's awful, isn't it?
Exactly. So there is beauty in it. And I think if people, whatever trade or craft you do, you take pride in what you do, it kind of shines through. And it's kind of a really important piece of it. And, you're right, it's not just the designer. Everybody has a say in what they're doing about that. So I guess then 3 years at kind of uni, kind of came out not really sure what I was going to do. So kind of went back home, did a bit of kind of labouring work on site, and then happened to be clearing out the house that I'd been kind of in. And there's a note on one of the guys' table. It said, "Ring this number, possible job, London." And it was like a post-it note at the time.
Could have been anything.
I got hold of Charlie, no mobile phone. So I got hold of Charlie. So Charlie, this is on your desk. I'm not interested. So I got in touch with this place. It was a place called Kimball International. And the two guys there, Adrian and Ian, were designers there who had been there on the same course as me in previous years. And basically it was like... I don't know how I kind of managed it, but it said, we got this job. You can kind of come down. Fantastic. It's 50 quid a week. 50 quid a week.
What year was that in?
95.
Oh,
94, 95. So it's
harsh.
50 quid a week. But what else I was going to do. You know, there wasn't a kind of a great deal where I was kind of living and kind of growing up for what I've done. I'd been away. You want to kind of stay away almost as well at that point. Always been, I'm not saying incentivized of earning money, but if you want something, you've got to earn. You know, you've got to kind of pay for it. So I had a little bit of savings from doing whatever I've been doing, labouring or whatever it might be. And so 50 quid a week. Fortunately, the guys have been, Duncan, who was my best man and still see now, a few of them in graphic design, because that one really kind of kicked off when Apple Macs kind of came out and they got right in on it, being able to use it straight away. So they got jobs straight out of uni. So I spent kind of 6 months on the sofa, you know, just kind of doing that job. And then it got to the point I was at that one going to Archway to sign on the dole to get some money, because it was kind of, I'd run out of my savings. And I've been going around, how do I make myself different? So my CV was in a CD case, right?
Wow.
And I was going door to door. And at that time, Great Portland Street, all around there, that's where kind of the furniture industry was in London. Clerkenwell didn't exist, so forget about that. And historically, all the furniture manufacturers were in that part of kind of Fitzrovia. It's kind of a cool media kind of place. That's where you kind of grew up. So I was going around there door to door, putting my CV through the door. And I just happened to have, I had caught, there was a chap from kind of Herman Miller, got in kind of contact, design director then, and then another company called HNB, a guy called Paul Roberts, who I went to meet. So I'm on my kind of running out of no funds, running out on my uppers, kind of last chance, what happens? So I kind of go to HNB. And it's on Store Street, just off kind of Tottenham Court Road. Looked kind of cool on the outside. I managed to wangle a job as technical sales support on design. So they, at the time, were, you kind of say case good manufacturers, so timber elements. So they had a manufacturing plant in Newmarket, and then this was their sales kind of office and design piece. So that was kind of saving grace of, I can still say in London, I've got a job that's now 15 grand a year. So 50 quid a week to 15 grand.
Big jump.
I was in the money. So that's kind of how that was. And again, it's probably sums up a kind of a course of the kind of career. So that was owned by a guy called Roger Osborne. Going out with him to see whoever it was, he went down in his Rolls Royce. I mean, honestly, you go, right, okay. And the people that you kind of work with were a kind of real mix and kind of great fun. And we manufactured your own products. We had a Israeli product that they kind of brought in. And at that time, it was systems furniture. Does that kind of mean anything to you?
No, it should do, but...
No, I mean, it's a really interesting one. So nowadays, a desk is a desk. It's got a white top. It's got 4 white legs.
Yeah.
In the past, when manufacturers or companies were trying to add value to what they did, this idea of kind of systems furniture came out. It started in the 60s. Herman Miller, a range called Action Office. Action Office. And it was a panel base, so it kind of hung together. You put a your kind of work surface on it, and you could landscape the space. And then it changed into, in the 80s, kind of 90s, into another range called kind of Ether Space. Interesting thing is, projects doing later, 80% would be reused. So when you talk about circular economy now, they were doing it 30 years ago in terms of the products that they were
reusing the furniture.
Yeah, it was amazing. So it would be kind of reused. So the company was at H&B. They had a Israeli product called Finish, very, very similar to it, and we were kind of a reseller for that. So really, as the furniture manufacturer, that what they have, you've got 2 routes. You're either going to go through a dealer network, or you're trying to go direct. For a niche manufacturer, as they were, going direct is much better, or being specified by the architect community. So there was lots of events in the showroom. There was kind of, it was a million miles away from kind of, I guess, where I grew up and the kind of experience that I'd been having previous to that one. So it was a fantastic time.
Do you find that, I know this is jumping forward a little bit now, but just whilst we're on topic, do you find a lot more people reuse furniture nowadays on projects rather than they did back then? No,
I don't think. I'd say no.
And why not? Why is that the case, do you think? Because you'd think, in my mind, I would think, if you're a client and you can have a the same product being delivered or similar product delivered into your project, into your office or into your space, that is secondhand, yes. But the secondhand market in general nowadays in the whole world is just completely transformed. But so like, why would they not have secondhand? Because I was recording with someone called Keith who runs a company called Receipt, and they are
reseller.
They're a reseller.
I was listening to that one. I was fascinated.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was very careful not to call it a secondhand dealer because you kept correcting me when I kept calling it.
I think it's true. I mean, I think it was reselling premium products.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it kind of sits. You know, jumping around. I'm a cyclist. There's a great company, Cycle Exchange in Kingston. They sell premium bikes, a couple of years old, resell them through, and you get an amazing kind of product for a certain kind of price, which is fantastic. Back in, I'm going to say in the day because that makes me sound quite old. When you invested in your furniture, it was typically desking. Ancillary products and those kind of ones were not really a mainstay. You know, an office was an office where you still had that kind of tailorist kind of view. The main place that you worked and did everything was your desk. So the investment was in kind of a single item. I was looking at an old portfolio recently, and it had some. This is from 2006, and it had some rates on of these workstations. You're looking at £4,000 per workstation. Now you're talking about £400. So if a company invests that amount of money at that time, it had a value to it.
Yep.
And these, so what you could do with those products, 80% of it could be reused, and then you reclad it in new finishes, so it looked new every time.
Yep.
So that kind of reuse element to it was a second-hand product, but with just a small spend to it. It would be looking kind of brand new again, and had a kind of a life, 30-year warranty, and that was an investment, which has kind of changed now in terms of how it was. So I think when it comes to the reuse of, let's say, ancillary items, good quality ones, absolutely, but you maybe want to do, they're going to clean them, they're going to do a deep clean, you might want to be reupholstered, which is fine, but there is economy of scale by going through all that. You're probably not being as environmentally aware as what you could be if you just took it and kind of reused it, but people don't always want that. So everything has its place. It's an interesting one. I think it all comes down to value. If you spend money on something and it's got residual value, you want to reuse it. Fast fashion, which I think has come into our industry for a detrimental kind of point, kind of erodes what you can do with that.
Interesting you say from detrimental point. How come you think it's detrimental? Fast fashion.
Yeah, I think
in our industry that is not.
In our industry, I think kind of fashion changes, doesn't it? And when it's something that you can change quickly, let's say kind of a colour of a wall or a kind of detail such as that, it's a relatively easy kind of exercise. When it becomes a product, it just turns into a commodity. That commodity has a value, and that value to that kind of client may be very little. So in my view, if you're in let's say the kind of furniture industry, and you're turning into a commoditized kind of item and the price is being pushed down, that means the quality that you can produce, the quality of the people that you can bring into that industry always gets eroded, because what you were originally selling at X amount allowed you to train, do white papers, do research, whatever it might be. And if you get pushed down into a smaller kind of market, you're not kind of doing that. So when I talked about, mentioned Herman Miller, so H&B, that was that, and then it kind of got to the point when they were kind of in tricky grounds. So then my next kind of jump was a company called MJF. They're an Irish company. I got interviewed by an amazing guy called Brian Whiteside. A little bit out of my depth again. I'd just gone through the HMB and pretending I could use AutoCAD by having the manual on my lap while I was sat there pretending that they can't see me what I'm doing, because he said, can you use AutoCAD at my first interview? And I went, oh, of course I can. Yes, of course I can. He had half a day at uni at the time, and so it was kind of managed to get through. But set myself to night school, kind of did that. So when I kind of had to move from HMB, went to MJF.
But sorry to interrupt again. I keep thinking of things, but isn't it interesting that you kind of like, bumbled your way through that and pretended you knew AutoCAD, but you just do that in life in general with everything. Even as you get older, like people might look at you and think, oh, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's in a senior role in the industry, but realistically, people are still doing that anyway with loads of things. We're all still kind of learning on the job to an extent. I know we know.
It's true. It's that kind of one. If you know everything, you're going too slow. I think, if I've got someone I've given a job, and let's face it, the more you interview, the more you can read between the lines. And I'm sure Paul, who gave me that first job, is thinking, he's told me you can do that, but maybe you can't. But if he sees me staying late, getting in early, I've got the manual there. I'm not asking the repeated stupid question. I think everybody should ask as many questions, but don't keep asking the same one. I think they give you some slack. And if you get put through to doing night school to get better, I think it's the character of the person that you're employing, not simply all the skills that they've got. Because when you come out of university or higher education, or whatever it might be, you don't know everything because you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly that. And with the world that's ever changing so much nowadays, you've always got your manual in front of you, whether it's an AutoCAD manual, whatever it is.
You're on your phone now.
Always, all the time.
You're checking things, and it's the same situation. So anybody who shows initiative is, in my books, is an employable person all the time. Anybody who I think I can work with is an employable person. It's that kind of personality. And you can't get that by just, kind of sitting on a screen or whatever it is. You've got to have that kind of human touch where you go, we're going to be in a group of people. We're going to be kind of working hard. We're going to be, it's going to get a little bit fraught. We've got to be able to work together. And that's so important. Go on.
You mentioned you'd rather work with this person rather than this person, but like if you had two people, and by no means don't answer this question.
Go on.
You can remove this if you want. But if you had two people, say one person that had, you could see a bit of raw talent in them, but they were really, they're workable. You could work with them. And you knew they're happy to put the hours in. Yeah. Or somebody who knew what they were doing, but they were lazy and maybe not the.
Just don't even have to think about it. First one every time.
But there was no promise that they were going to be able to deliver the type of work that the alternative person would have been able to deliver.
Do you know what? You have to back yourself then. If you see somebody who's got talent and you think you know your trade and your job and you can impart that, you can bring them up. Now, I'm not, through my career, I've had my bad moments of being a manager, of how I am. I'm sure kind of people I've worked with. And that's something for me to kind of learn on and do. But I think anybody who's got the right attitude and aptitude will always succeed. And I think the more you've been in an industry and you see people kind of coming through, you want to be able to share what you've learned and kind of bring them on. And that's a really helpful and nurturing environment, which is why, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, the coming back to the office, the kind of workplace is so important now because it's a hub for kind of social interaction, different generations, and it's so important. But I guess that's a conversation where we go down the line.
We can talk about now. We'll talk about now. Like, what is your opinions on that whilst we're on the topic? Because, like the whole work from home, inverted commas, is a buzzword. It's less now, but, in between 2020 and 2023, I used to just literally go onto LinkedIn in the morning and all I would see is people's opinions on work from home. Is it good? Is it bad? Are we following big corporations for the right or for the wrong? But like, what is your opinion on the transition from, say, 2020 up to now? Like, because it's been a huge transition through, maybe 80% of people working from home because they had to because of COVID, and then everyone's coming back, and then people are still finding their right and wrong with it. But like, how do you see it?
It's a cornerstone of people's kind of social interaction, people's kind of growth. It is vital. I think when you looked at the kind of pandemic, you take out one element of what it was. Let's say schools. Suddenly, schools have closed. That stops parents being able to do what they need to do. You take away the workplace environment, it stops that social interaction. I think, where I am now at Area, I would say I'm very lucky. We have people in the early 20s, 21. We have people in the 60s. And those groups can be in a pod altogether. And you may not have the same family unit that you have. You might only see your cousins and things every kind of once in a while. But if you put an environment where you've got so many generations working together, everybody contributes and everybody learns from each other. And that's an enriching environment for everybody, whether you're towards the end of your career or kind of just starting out. Because, you absorb so much by just seeing what people do. I mean, when you're on the screen, you see this much, your head. You don't see the kind of, the hands moving, the interaction, the body language, how to kind of learn and do. And the officers are only going to become more and more important for that kind of element to
It's also the emotion behind interacting and collaborating with people, especially in our industry, like the design and build and fit out, because there's so much collaboration to take a project from concept all the way through to completion. Yeah. I feel like if you were to try and do that remotely, well, say from concept through to like contract, if you were to try and do that remotely with your team, I feel like you would lose so much emotion behind conversations, and your comms would never be as clear as they could be, because you need to, I don't know if this sounds right, but you need to like fill the room when you're collaborating with people, like the sense and the emotion and the energy in a room when you're trying to work with people, so you know which direction to go in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is, because I think when you're together and you're reading people's body language, so someone may, let's say, have a constructive criticism about it. If it's just done online, it can be quite an emotional kick in the teeth. If you've put your blood, sweat, it comes across a bit blunt. Blood, sweat, and tears. But when you kind of, if you just spent the last 30 minutes going through something, and someone goes, "Look, I really don't think this is because of X, Y, Z," it's so different, and it's less confrontational, and people just kind of work better. We all work better. It's more. That emotional connection is really kind of rewarding.
I do agree with you. I used to post it on LinkedIn, but I used to get people right underneath saying, "Yeah, you would say that 'cause you're an office fit out."
Do you know what? It is the one. But I think the other thing that made our industry, because it's one of those industries that goes under the radar. When I was in kind of furniture, that just thought it was kind of like stationary supply. You kind of don't talk about it. Yeah. Then when you kind of talk about what you do now, we design and fit out offices. Gosh, that's a dinner party killer, isn't it? It really is. It's one of those ones. But come the pandemic, everybody then had a kind of an informed opinion of what was or is a good workplace. What does it mean to them? It suddenly became a viable topic because. Everyone's living it, everyone's experienced it. A lot of people, work in a kind of a workplace environment. So it became and has become, an interesting topic for people. And because of that, I think people's understanding of it and the importance of it has got better, and the quality of the environments that we're creating has got better as well, and will get better.
It's funny you say that as well, because it really was. It's not a very well-known industry, more so nowadays. Yeah. But I'm thinking about when I did my carpentry apprenticeship, working in construction. You would think I would know about the design and build commercial industry, but I didn't even think about it. It's always residential you think of when it comes to like that type of designing and doing spaces. It's houses.
It's exactly that. Yeah,
you never think of offices or commercial spaces. It's really strange.
It's just an office.
Yeah,
it's just where I go to sit at a desk.
You spend more time than you would at home. Well, actually, mind you, maybe not when you sleep.
But that's how it's changed. Your attitude was, this is where I go to sit at a desk. And I think, when kind of linking it back to when I went to the kind of MJF, at that time, they were Herman Miller's biggest dealer outside North America. Had kind of 3 sites there. And that was an unusual one where, they would, the peak, I wasn't in sales, but I think they kind of did about 50 million, which is massive for
huge.
Kind of a furniture element to it. And at that time, you were kind of with, this company who had, you're a kind of a dealer for, I don't know, if people understand think of it, the car industry. So if you buy a Audi, you don't buy it from Audi, you buy it from a dealer. Mm-hmm. And you get good, bad, or indifferent dealers, but you've got an area. So the American manufacturers, the kind of big ones, Miller, Steelcase, Hayworth, those ones would have award you, and you're very fortunate to be awarded a dealer for a certain area. And MJF had managed to catch on to that, and they became, at that time, kind of biggest kind of dealership outside North America. So they had it done. And what then happened was all those kind of global agreements would almost kind of come in. There you go, that's what it is. They would kind of set your margins and what you're working to, but you had a ready supply kind of coming through. Which was kind of worked for a lot of people for a lot of time. And with Herman Miller at the time, from my experience, was they'd got the mid-century pieces done by Charles and Ray Eames. Fortunate to go out to Marigold Lodge, walk into the smokehouse where they had designed these pieces, the Eames Lounger, those kind of iconic elements to it. It was just like kind of wow. Fast forward, you're finishing off a degree. Chair Called the Air on Chair came out. Bill Stumpf, Don Chadwick designed it in kind of 93. It's 30 odd years old now and it still looks contemporary. Kind of amazing kind of piece. And you're thinking, wow, I'm aligned to these. Then you're working with great kind of architectural practices. And that you do a lot of kind of planning work. And I guess at that point, you really start understanding kind of what a dealer does and the kind of design department in a furniture dealership is. And I guess that's where, and I know from some of your other conversations, I'm a big advocate of your 10,000 hours. You kind of put in the effort, you understand what it is, and you've kind of done your 10,000 hours to really understand your trade, of what it's about. So we were working with some kind of great products. And, it was on a, kind of a great trajectory, really. And then you had the dot-com bubble. You talk about financial crash in sort of like 2008, dot-com 2000, boom, it was kind of overnight. So that made a big change to that business. You're kind of working through lots of kind of changes. The kind of ready stream of business that was coming from a kind of urban mill at the time wasn't happening. And there's kind of realignment. And there's a bit of a kind of wake-up call from yourself in terms of what you want to do, where do you want to kind of go to. And then it was a time when kind of you're learning about what sales is. And I think, probably kind of mentioned earlier, I think throughout your career, it's kind of people and projects that define certain moments in time. Some of the projects that you work on, size, scale, complexity, learnings from it, and then the people. And surprisingly, from being a designer, the people I think which have probably had the biggest influences or kind of changes are being the sales guys.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which
you're right as well, and sorry, only from my opinion, right? Because I've learned one of my key skill sets, I'd say, is like relationship building and relationship nurturing, and I've learned that through someone I work with who runs the sales department, and he is so hell-bent on, like creating a relationship with someone, nurturing the relationship with them, and then you never know what can happen within that, relationship, whether, you might get some work from them, anything can happen. It's an infinite possibility once you've created and nurtured a relationship with somebody. So it's the same as me, like, and he's a salesman through and through.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think I came in going, I'm a designer, I'm going to kind of change the world, I've got a kind of reason to it, but you're just a cog in a team that needs to happen, and you don't really appreciate the work that goes on behind the scenes, from a sales point of view, whether it is kind of chasing down the opportunity or if you're more in BD, making those kind of connections. I think my eye-opener to me was, there's one particular guy who's in kind of BD. Who knew what BD was? I had no idea. This guy just kind of rocked up whenever he seemed to kind of come into the office and really couldn't understand why. And I think he caught me moaning or something. And he just had a quiet word with me. He said, Lee, what were you doing? Where were you at 2:00 this morning? I was in bed and, kind of family, blah, blah, blah. He said, well, I was out entertaining, doing all these things. I do that 5 days a week. It is for a certain person to be able to do that. And then when you kind of put all the dots together, you realize that, winning business is not just about having the best design, it's about having the best team around it, and they all kind of come together. So you start to learn a little bit about, it's not a one-man show or a one-woman show. It's got to be a collective to kind of, achieve your end kind of goal. And
true.
Sales have kind of made that kind of piece to it. And so I was a kind of MJF and a guy, Justin Bass, he kind of came on board to be kind of MD. We'd gone through lots of changes. And he was one of the ones who I'd never seen a salesperson work as hard or have as much kind of, kind of lateral vision in terms of kind of ideas. And he was, very kind of inspiring character and still is in terms of that kind of point in my time. And we'd done kind of great at MJF, and we'd taken the team out, and he kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, I need to have a chat with you about something. And I said, okay, what is it? We kind of turned the corner. He said, yeah, I'm leaving. And I want you to come have some chats with some people. And that was when we went to the people who kind of started Area. You kind of,
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was your journey into Area.
Yeah, and that was the kind of where I am now. So we kind of met at a hotel. We had a chat with the guys there, very kind of informal kind of point of view. and handed in the notice. And it was the kind of first time I've been on gardening leave. It's just kind of like, but it wasn't in the summer, it was over winter, but hey ho, but we had that. And then we kind of came into this world. So at MJF, at the latter part of that, not only was kind of running the kind of design studio, they had a kind of a design and build element to it. It had changed a little bit. The guys who were there actually gone to kind of form area, and you're kind of heading up a studio. So my background had gone from being furniture design to running a kind of an interior design, kind of design and build kind of studio as well. And the opportunity then at area with Justin was to kind of set up Sketch Studios, which was a pure out-and-out furniture dealer.
Okay.
So at the time, area I think were probably 38 million. So quite small, good, but kind of small.
Is that still when they were more regional?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had the London one. They kind of moved into London and had that section to it. And they've been doing, I think, like most design and build companies, you offer a turnkey, and a part of that is FF&E. And they were kind of I don't know, maybe £1 million worth of kind of furniture done on a very ad hoc basis, with people kind of doing it. And
was that that was a scalable element of the business? And
it's an opportunity.
Why you got brought in, was it?
Yeah. So we kind of brought in to turn it around into it was a standalone element. So we kind of created that brand kind of sister company to the kind of fit out. We kind of keep it separately, but you supported. The idea was you could support your design and build, and you could go out to kind of A&D community. And so for probably 9 years, until we kind of went our kind of separate ways, kind of grew it up. And at that point, actually kind of making that step gives you a bit of skin in the game. So it's a different kind of look, and I might have changed where I was in terms of kind of career path, but this was an opportunity to kind of be on the kind of ground floor of kind of creating something.
Was it difficult? So say the furniture dealer under area, then it was called Sketch.
We started it. There wasn't one. So Sketch Studios, it's still going now.
Yep.
At that time, they just did turnkey. There wasn't an independent one. So we created a new company. I think we were given. I mean, we took out a bit of a loan, and we had to kind of, create something out of it.
So how did you find sourcing alternative clientele? So I suppose Area would have used you for furniture as you're under the umbrella, but how did you find sourcing alternative clientele in the industry if people might have known that you were Area, but kind of the furniture side of it as well?
It's a kind of a fine balance.
Yeah.
The first thing we needed to do was get the manufacturers to actually want to kind of put their products through us. I mean, they knew, Justin knew myself. We had to kind of grow the business and be able to have a portfolio to kind of promote. And initially, the thought was being aligned to one of the big manufacturers. And they were all kind of taken up, and we ended up striking a deal with Knoll at the time, Knoll International. It's now kind of Mill and Knoll, they've kind of merged, but Knoll was kind of going to be our kind of mainstay. And then you would then bolt on the kind of ancillary elements to it. I think Orange Box had only been going a couple of years, knew the people there. So again, it was lots of conversations to be able to promote those ones. Obviously, you want to be able to agree some terms, be able to kind of sell the products, and then also quickly recruiting people to be able to support what you do. I would say, and I'm sure people who are in the furniture industry, it's a very easy way of losing money.
Oh, interesting.
If it only takes one specification code number out of sequence, and you're having something turning up pink instead of blue, whatever it might be. So it's an easy way of losing money. So you have to kind of get your processes in place kind of very early. Good people.
Yeah.
When products were at a kind of a certain value, that filters through to have good people. It's that kind of relationship. So that was kind of built up and created. Yes, we were servicing Area. So I guess it's two kind of mindsets, wanting to kind of educate them a little bit in terms of what you could do with the space, how you can kind of bring in products. Because at the time, I mean, great design and build, but it was still quite raw at that time. It wasn't as sophisticated, I would say, as it is now, and the designers were not as sophisticated as they are. So you kind of got this kind of coming together that would kind of elevate some of those kind of proposals, pitches and understanding, and then the other side of it was being able to kind of go to the kind of PMs and kind of A&D community, which was quite tricky because they see you in some respects as a competitor because you're design and build.
Yeah.
Which was always the kind of playoff, which kind of, I guess, fast forwarded kind of at the point when there's a kind of decision, people had kind of done their time, people wanted to move on onto different things, and we kind of separated Sketch out to be a completely outward-facing element. So they would kind of focus very much on the A&D world, and it was definitely a separate. And the team that I guess I was at that time, I'd gone from coming on kind of founder, design director, more in a sales kind of capacity and role, and heading up that kind of stream, that supported area. And we kind of brought the people in and kind of merged that element within it. So you still had all the knowledge of people who are kind of furniture consultants, understanding, because what we didn't want to do is have designers specifying something which would be kind of, they don't do it, but in the past they've had it. I've looked on Pinterest, I've looked at this, we're going to have that. Well, we can't get it. It's on 20-week lead time, blah, 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 whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So we still wanted to be able to control it, do a really good job. So you had people kind of specifically working on that. So we did that merge and brought them in, and that kind of worked. And that's why I guess my step into kind of area fully. It was always been part of the Fourfront Group, but then that was kind of, sitting on the two boards, London and regions, and it was more of a kind of a workplace specialist director kind of bringing it in. So that was happened for a couple of years to kind of make that kind of transition, and it's kind of working through. And then you get to the point as your background's design, I would say, and you're looking for what comes next. You've kind of gone towards sales, because it comes to a point when there's not many clients that really want a grey-haired, middle-aged chap kind of coming in to be your lead creative designer. So it's a bit of a humbling experience when you know you've got experience, you know you can do the job, but actually you need to kind of move into something else for it. And so I had a time where I kind of co-head 360, which was the kind of workplace consultancy side of it. It had already been started by one of your previous guests, so he's kind of working on that one with Ethan. And we had a time when it was kind of grew to about 8 people. For me, in terms of that, I'd come from understanding what you do, so I kind of knew that kind of element to it. But I think I was probably missing seeing an end result that's a physical, something kind of built and done. So while I kind of enjoyed that period of time, I don't think it was the most, I don't think the business got the best out of me in that period of time, and I don't think I was probably the best kind of person to kind of be around. It probably wasn't ticking the boxes.
That was at the design consultancy?
Well, yeah, no, it was kind of 360. It was part of the group.
Yeah.
So within Fourfront Group area, you got area, design and build. We had Sketch Studio, still got Sketch Studio, still running as a dealer, and then you had 360, which is the furniture consultancy side, the workplace consultancy side of it.
And then how long did that last at the workplace consultancy side?
I was there probably 18 months, kind of coming to 2 years. The good thing that it did is get me back in touch with clients again.
Interesting.
Kind of directly with clients, working with them, understanding them. And that was kind of a bit of I like this kind of element to it. It's kind of really important about it.
Was it a bit of a shock going from, like the design type role before you were at Sketch, and then you were at Sketch for 9 years, was it? It was
9 years.
And then getting back into it, that period of 9 years not being solely involved with, I know you probably were because it's still furniture design and whatnot, but the workplace consultancy design type thing, was that a bit of a culture shock getting back into it?
It wasn't so much a culture shock, because you kind of earned your spurs understanding what an environment could be, how it should be used. I think there was new kind of elements coming in terms of technology, how you could room sensors, see kind of occupancy levels, those kind of elements to it. But I think I missed, kind of goes back to being able to that kind of see an end result, which would be a built environment, a kind of a finished space. It had the mechanism to kind of guide a client through of what they could be looking for, but that's quite a long gestation period. You kind of talk maybe 2 years out, and we've got a team now headed up by Ganal, who are super. They're absolutely fantastic of getting in early, understanding the client. They're a lot more empathetic than I am. I think that's kind of one of the other ones as well, and we're able to kind of guide them through. I'm a bit probably more impatient. I get you there. And actually, you kind of have to go through that process.
One thing that, sorry to interrupt again, but one thing that really struck me when I recorded with Leeson, actually, because obviously he's in workplace consultancy, was the level and depth of understanding and knowledge, and the level you go to as a consultant when you're doing workplace consultancy to understand the client's wants and needs. Like because obviously we're a lot smaller, and we don't carry out these types of things with clients on a smaller scale. We do, but not on a larger scale. Like people, Leeson, what he's doing now and what he did with you guys, I was shocked at. Even from like, I mean, I think he mentioned it was in a utopian world, as he put it, you would be involved with the client 18 months before a project was coming to live. To fruition, sorry. But that 18 months, you are just, your sole purpose is to understand their wants and needs, which shocked me because, like I said, we're a lot smaller. So, we're like a couple of 3 months to understand a client's, a lot smaller projects we do. So we probably wouldn't warrant doing that much. But it was just interesting to hear the level and the depth that you can go to.
There is, I mean, it is absolutely a need to kind of understand. I would caveat that one. Not every client is the same. So if I would look at the team that we have now are better and more thorough than the team kind of then. And the clients who need the justification and proof that this is where they need to go, kind of spend, view, is absolutely perfect for that kind of approach. Working with a client at the moment and a big project, and the recruitment is, the comment was, it looks like we might need another 200 people. And that's within the space of a few weeks. So you couldn't do that kind of approach with a company that's on like kind of a hyper growth, simply because by the time you've done the research, what they need a change. It's as simple as that. So the consultancy element to it has to be certainly for the right client, and it's a super informative kind of process. If you have a very well educated real estate team in a company, we're doing multiple projects at multiple times, could be kind of around the world. They kind of know the kind of trajectory and what needs to happen. And then at that point, you just need to be able to have the team that can kind of mirror their needs and bring maybe something new to it, whether it's a neurodiversity kind of view to it, or actually, practical terms. If we do X, Y, and Z, we're going to be able to achieve a kind of a quicker lead time. So you kind of have to mirror your, offering or approach to the needs of the client. And that's very much what happens. And I think having where we are now, we've got the ability to bring in those people, what needs to happen, and join. A lot of what we do with the consultancy side now on kind of design and build projects is kind of a change management piece. So while we're physically changing the kind of the built environment, we're also being able to educate and change hearts and minds to how you operate in that space as well, because it's not simply a point of kind of throwing employees into a new space and say, isn't that great? You can now use this. If they don't understand the boundaries of what they can use and how to use it, and the fact that you've got a management team that allows them to work in a different way. So that education piece is kind of really important in terms of how you offer. So how long's a piece of string, but you have to make that string suitable for the client and the project and the time frame that you need to kind of operate in.
Yeah, he was a fascinating person to record with Leeson, because he completely opened mind up to that side of things, the consultancy side of things. Yeah, it was something completely not unbeknown, but something that I didn't really take into consideration, the depth it can go into. Yeah,
I mean, we've got a team of kind of 5 now. The team that, as I said, are really, really empathetic, knowledgeable, and varied in terms of what they offer, and they can kind of work with the clients in different kind of avenues to bring them on. And they're great, because a client sees that early engagement. You're not even talking to them about build; you're talking to them about making it better for them. So that is a good kind of structure, and that's how I think, to a degree, the design and build industry has kind of grown up, because it's not simply about kind of getting to the end game as quickly as possible. In all instances, it's about educating, a team through that process to feel that they've got the best possible solution at the end of it as well. So it works in that. And then you kind of bring in the facets of the kind of furniture consultants who kind of experts in their elements to it. And you have a very rounded kind of resolved kind of approach.
So tell us about the sort of the more modern times of your journey in areas of group, or Fourfront, I should call it, really, is a group. So you started in sketch, then you went into the design, and then you're now more involved with area as a whole?
So 2019, I think the company has always had an outward-looking stance. We created a network called the United Workplace, which was really bringing companies from different kind of geographical regions which could kind of work together. So that was the kind of first instance. That was a kind of a brainchild of Aki, who's been with the company a long time. He was brought on by the founders to really kind of steer and guide them, and he's got that kind of peripheral vision to kind of bring elements to. So that kind of set a blueprint for what we could do. You've got Brexit kind of looming. What a disaster! I guess we could talk about that on a different political kind of program. But anyway, so as a business, we've always gone with our clients wherever they've wanted to use us. So we've always done work outside our kind of home market of the kind of UK. And I pick up on a comment from one of the previous from Leeson about how we deliver projects can be absolutely clear area. When we're designing and delivering a design and build project outside the UK, we're in contract, we're the principal contractor, we're owning that project, and we're using local supply chain to deliver it, but we own that kind of project. So that's the kind of key that we do.
Interesting.
And we talk about the difference about how our model is and how to go about it. But so 2019, conversation kind of coming to go, right, okay, what is going to be my kind of next path? Maybe kind of look outside the group, maybe kind of move on. I think in your career, you're always looking for something that is going to give you a challenge. You're always kind of learning what is the next thing. As I said, if you know everything, you're going too slow. And opportunity kind of arose for a kind of a new initiative. And that was really to get something running on rails that allowed us to really offer a design and build approach outside the UK. So that's joining kind of it's got an international edge to it now because EMEA, we've focused very much on Europe. Expansion into the Middle East is kind of taking place and kind of current now. But in 2019, the view was to have something that could offer clients who want to use as an alternative to going with maybe some of the well-known PM companies who bolt on a fit out, which to me sounds a little bit strange. It's a bit kind of poacher and gamekeeper all together, but I guess that's another conversation as well. So
how did you find how did you find sourcing local supply chain when you're going into Europe? Did you have help from people who are in those countries, or because if a project was to come up in Spain, for instance, like how would you not only trust the supply chain you're about to employ, but also how would you find them?
So it's an interesting one, and you have to kind of go to the main markets in terms of what you're looking for. And there's a lot of research went on into kind of companies. We had a kind of a criteria, privately owned. That's kind of a good one because what I want is peer-to-peer kind of conversation. So we know the fun and games that can happen kind of on a project. You want to it happens. I mean, it happens. Right. I mean, it's not a linear path. There's always going to be a challenge. So for us, it was having a kind of peer-to-peer kind of contact for me on those ones and our operations team. And then the ability to have a track record. So we go and kind of see them, vet them, understand what's the trading history, how they've been, look at their projects, go around different sites and get a feel for what that kind of supply chain can offer. And it's varied in some kind of markets. You've got a wider net. In other ones, which might be a bit smaller, you're kind of a little bit of a smaller net. But you want to be able to see those people, shake those hands, build those relationships, which comes back again and again as a theme. And then there is a little bit of a leap of faith when you're kind of delivering a project, which is where we kind of quite rigorous in how we approach our projects and how we kind of structured. So we're now in kind of the international team, dedicated team, and we're very delivery focused and biased. The team there, I guess my immediate counterpart to that one, Nick, for me, he is, and for many people, the best operations delivery guy in the industry.
They're hard to find as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Delivery and ops
is amazing. I mean, and our technical team are rigorous in terms of the information that we produce. To be able to ensure that we're de-risking any kind of, loss in conversation, because you can put a set of pack, a drawing pack out to a local kind of subby in the UK and it comes back completely different. Yeah. When you multiply that in different regions, you just have to be very, very clear about it in terms of what kind of gets produced and done. So when we've kind of selected these people, and to be clear, we don't go looking to pitch in those other kind of markets. Our team works with a client and gives them, I guess, we kind of have an international track record with a boutique approach to service. So the clients that we've been fortunate to work with, and I always kind of think of that, it's a client's choice if they want to work with us. It's their gift to want to work with us. And when you do a single project, it's a transactional piece. We've got clients now. I'm on my 10th project with them. At that point, it's more of an emotional connection, because on each project, you want to improve, you want to develop, you want the next one to be even better. And that's when, we have some people say, it's okay, you're just kind of farming. But actually, the emotional connection that you have to want to do better makes it more of a pressurized situation, because we know, we've got 80+% kind of repeat business. You don't get that by not doing a good job and doing a good job and doing a good job and continuing to do a good job. So that's kind of an important kind of factor to it. So how we ensure the delivery, we have our own kind of project managers on those sites, running those ones, to make sure that if I do a project in Rome, the client's experience is the same as if I do a project in kind of Barcelona. While local norms and trades and kind of approaches to kind of site work can be slightly different, the experience the client gets is the same in these different regions, as opposed to, I guess, some of the more standard ways is you get given to another studio in country. But it's a bit like the car dealer analogy that I say. You get one service, which is fantastic. You go to the same brand somewhere else, and the people aren't as good and the service isn't as good, and then you're left with a bit of a sour taste. Whereas our clients, they get that team wherever, so they move with them. So they're learning, there's a shorthand understanding that gets developed. You've got an incredible amount of trust, and you've got a commitment that is kind of second to none, kind of both ways. And you want to be able to be respectful, that they're willing to put their trust in you and how you work.
One thing I want to piggyback on, which you actually said earlier, which I was going to ask you, but we were too involved in another conversation, was you mentioned about the design and build industry has grown up as such. Yeah. What did you mean by that? And what was it like then compared to now?
I think it wasn't as, the quality of design probably wasn't seen as being as good as what you could get from an architectural practice. I would say most design and build companies have a high percentage of designers who've come from the architectural world, because in design and build it's slightly more fast-paced, and I think that's kind of a more interesting for people. So I think that ability to having quality in design, so we've kind of got that. Our ability to deliver great projects as well. It is kind of chalk and cheese to what it was. The expectations, the level, the technical details that you can do. It's really kind of grown up in terms of an industry and the quality of delivery. I mean, there's only whether it's trad or whether it's design and build really depends on a company's procurement route and what they need to do. And if a company is driven down the route of having we can't single source it, has to go through that kind of traditional route. Well, that's how it is. But if you've got a company who actually sees the benefit of having design and build, a grown-up design and build in terms of what they can offer, well, then there are kind of benefits to that one. There's one back to pat, there's one arse to kick kind of a approach to it. And I think that's kind of a key differentiator maybe to when I started. When I was doing design, you do the creative, you do all the technical pack. No, we've got specialists now. You've got technical designers, you've got creative designers, which makes a big difference in terms of how you operate.
Do you think it's easier operating in the design and build industry now than what it was back then? I know that's a bit of a broad question because there's so many different individual elements that have changed along the way.
I would say it was simpler in the past, whereas now you have to be better. You have to be better in every discipline, in every area. The competition's got better. You know, it's a more congested market for sure in terms of how you operate. So what you do in your process and how you work, because, you know, you might not be judged on great design or even price. It is, you know, delivery kind of capabilities, and that's the one that kind of hits the spot.
Also relationships as well. I know we've spoken about quite a lot, but, you know, like a couple of people I spoke to already in the podcast, and they've said that, you know, like all of the larger design and build companies like yourselves and everyone else, like realistically, we all do the same thing. It's the same thing. The journey might be a little bit different, but pinned down to the client journey and experience within working with that person, and also relationships and like, do you know, can you nurture a relationship with a client, and as long as you can deliver it well, then will they take you with you on to the next one and the next one? I think it was Michael Potter, I can't remember. I think he said something like, no one's reinventing the wheel or something like that about the industry as such, that everyone's kind of doing the same thing.
Well, it is. And I think that comes back down to, you know, how radically different is the environment that we're looking at now to how it was 15 years ago. You know, I think elements of it have just kind of on steroids. So your kitchen is now your breakout space. It's now the social hub to it. So you've kind of expanded certain elements to it, and other ones have become less. So it's not a sea of desks. You know, you've got different places to kind of go. It's kind of more that hot desking has kind of come about, you know, in terms of how people operate and work. You know, so I think we're not reinventing the wheel. You don't want to be on trend that seems to be fashion. You want to have something that's got kind of substance to what you do. But a client's choice is going to be about the team in front of them. You know, if they feel that I'm going to spend the next 8 months in pain with that team, I'm going to go with these guys because I think I'm going to get a better and rewarding experience on that journey. And that's kind of what you've got to get. And that's the tricky bit, because it's unquantifiable. You know, when you lose a project, no one wants to hear that it's because they don't really like you. You know, an easy one is to say, you know, oh, your price is too high or the design wasn't quite right. But there's got to be a chemistry where you go, you know what, we can kind of ride that through, because the design can be the design, the cost can be the cost. And, you know, as long as you can deliver it, you know, you've got to have that team to be able to do it.
Where do you think improvements could be made in the design and build industry? Again, that's a very broad question, but I feel like because you've experienced so many different areas of the industry and multifaceted as such, like, is there, you know, you've got the design, you've got the build there. Do you think we might have too much focus on the design nowadays, that the build could improve?
Well, it's an interesting one. So, I mean, I'm going to look at it from where kind of my wheelhouse is at the moment, and I kind of did a little kind of, you know, I said to you, I have to kind of over prepare. So I was kind of looking back. We've kind of done 50 projects in the last, I'm going to say 5 years. That's kind of round numbers, about 1 million square foot in terms of kind of commercial space in 12 countries.
Wow.
So we're kind of at that point of going, what could be better is not just a UK perspective, it's picking up kind of views and opinions and pointers from different regions, and that's what we're trying to kind of bring in. So I think in terms of our design teams, you know, I would say the core team that we've got have got a very international flavour, and I think that's quite unique in the industry, that they can appeal and get what an international client needs, because you need 80% that reflects them, and there's a 20% element that needs to reflect the location of where that's going. So that's the nuances of understanding a client brief, listening to them, and being able to translate that into something that kind of hits the mark relatively quickly without reinventing the wheel. So I would say we've improved my team and how we work in that kind of element. Yeah. And then in terms of how we go about delivery, I'm a great believer that our supply chain, you need to leave something on the table for them, for the next man or woman, in terms of they've got to be able to see value in the work, make value in what they do, because you need them to respond how you need them to respond. And in certain markets around Europe, design and build is either semi-alien or it's only just kind of coming. So we spend a lot of time with our supply chain so they understand what we need from them, so our delivery is better. So it may be not answering your question how it is, because I've got a different kind of perspective of how we operate and deliver projects, because it's across region in terms of how we operate.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that piece about the supply chain subcontractor partners, as you called them earlier, because, you know, many conversations I've had where the old school method of treating and dealing with subcontractors is they're subcontractors, so they're below you. They're not. It's almost like they're not part of the team. They're just serving you as a main contractor, principal contractor, however you want to put it. And the treatment has been so unfair, and it probably still is in some cases. But a lot of people I've spoke to have mentioned that it's improved so much because it's more like a partner element, a team element.
I think a mature business and mature team realizes you can't do it on your own. You need to have quality behind you to deliver quality projects.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of key to it, and bringing them on board. So the team spend a lot of time. We have the team on site spend a lot of time working with the subcontractors, being the eyes and ears, quick decisions, how to kind of change, improve what it needs to be. So you're not having to kind of reinvent the wheel each time. And it allows us to be able to say to them, we have got a quick variation coming in. It needs to happen, and you kind of accept it. It's not a freebie, but you've still got to get trades there and kind of labour to kind of do it. And you do need people invested in giving the best work for you to be able to deliver your best work for your clients.
Because you can design whatever project you want, but if you haven't got the correct supply chain to deliver that, it's pointless. Yeah.
I mean, and it is. And I guess we're very fortunate in terms of kind of my part of the kind of business, that we don't try to be all things to all people. So we've done projects where kind of mixed use kind of facilities in Holland, which is kind of a warehousing facility, and then you've got a bolt-on kind of office. So we've got an American client that took this on, 15-year lease in the Schiphol area. Because of so many data centers, they've got a power problem. So in that one, in terms of what they needed to do, because they were a kind of a pharmaceutical distributor, the mechanical solution was super important. And that project, where he had a deficit in terms of how that would perform. So we don't just do the kind of simple kind of Cat B. We had photovoltaics on the roof. We have a battery store. We have a super sophisticated HVAC system to be able to do it. So again, we can morph ourselves into producing kind of projects that the typical kind of company wouldn't be able to do, which gives us that. That's why I say we're fortunate being able to not all things to all people, and work on the projects that we can add real value, or the ones that are a challenge to be able to resolve around the place as well. Whether that was in Holland or in Germany or kind of Italy, Spain, as far down as Istanbul. We've been there doing kind of projects there as well. So
it's fascinating to hear that you guys can deliver it, because it's more like how I think about it is, like doing a project in Istanbul might be the same type of thing as doing it here, but the whole process to be able to deliver it there, for me, it seems like such an interesting, and it's almost like a discoverable process to try and build a team, take a team out there, build a team out there as well, not only take a team out there, deliver it, because cultures are different in different countries, and even like to little things like minor language barriers maybe, and how like the cultures are in with working out there, it's all so different. So it's so fascinating to hear that you can do it around Europe.
It is. You're always learning. I think that's one of the things about, we talk about people's career and where you're going. In this one, I've still got so much to learn, and it's exciting, and it kind of keeps you kind of really invigorated in terms of what you're doing. So while I've been in the industry kind of a long time, I've had different facets to it, and where I am now, I'm at that spot when we first started Sketch, and it was exciting, and you're kind of building something from new, and you had a team of people that was kind of on song for those kind of formative years. Where we are now, I'm very, very fortunate to have the best team of people I've ever worked with. And when you kind of put that together, you can kind of make things happen. You can kind of take on the challenges. You can rely on the kind of technical design, they've got it. Our creative design, they've got it. Our operations team, they understand it, they've got it. They see all the gaps, and that's kind of amazing. And so when you say go down to kind of Istanbul, and we've got guys and girls on site, our best site project managers are female. they're fantastic. Hungarian, German, we've got French, we've got a kind of a mix of, and they are just all over everything. In this country, we're very, very fortunate that the international language of kind of commerce is English.
Yeah.
You can be on a site and you will have, 10 different nationalities, and the common language is kind of English.
Yeah.
And also, everybody can read a drawing. You can draw something, you can do it. So my team on site, architectural kind of background to it, drawing a picture, showing what it needs to be, elevation, detail to it, that's universal. Everybody gets it, and delivering a project. And that's kind of working together with the teams. So you have to have a lot kind of closer interaction, with your supply chain. And they kind of trust you. So you do a project once, they might kind of go, how's this going to work? We're very good at seeing the gaps in what they think they're doing and making sure those gaps are filled, and everybody's aware of those ones, so no one's kind of left out. So when you're delivering a project, it's kind of simple. Then the next project, everybody knows where you are. And then they just start to run on rails in terms of expectations. And I think what is really kind of rewarding is to see, you see the quality of our team working with, mechanical consultants in Holland or in Germany, and they talk the same language, it's build, let's call it that. Yeah. And they get it. And the sparking off, which is great. And then you can kind of throw a group of designers in together, and it all kind of works together. And that is really, that's why you get me on about Brexit. It's frustrating because we're a small nation, but we're good at exporting kind of ideas, knowledge, kind of trade, commerce. And when you see that kind of happening in reality, it's fantastic. It's really rewarding. And that's a really exciting part of the projects that you do now.
What's the plans for yourself, not only for yourself but also for area Europe and how
our international team?
How do you guys see that going? Because I imagine you've got some lofty goals with it, but not only that, is like plans for yourself as well.
Yeah, I think lofty goals. I think.
I don't think that's the correct term, but
it kind of works. It's good. I think, how big do you want to be? And I think a lot of people would say, scale is not all about kind of turnover. It's got to be profit. So I think the kind of European kind of element to what we do in kind of EMEA, it's still got a way to go. I think the idea that a client can take a team that is experienced in, 18 different countries now is kind of unique. And I think that's a kind of a growth factor to be able to do it, and bringing people into our team and expanding that is a fantastic kind of piece. And it adds value. It adds value to every project, and it adds value to a client. And then our kind of new expansion is the Middle East. So we're going down the route. We've got a guy down there now, just on board. Darren, very experienced. We've known him for a long time, and we're going to be setting up area in that part of the world. So and it's green shoots. So it's just kind of new to the business. We're setting clear boundaries in terms of our scope of services, what we're doing, and making sure our kind of platform there of how we kind of grow is running on rails as it has been for our projects across Europe as well. Because again, if you're promoting that to a client, you've got to kind of back up what you're doing and be able to deliver. So that's our kind of next steps of how we're going about things. For me, I'm just kind of a course of learning and kind of always kind of trying to get better,
Still got your AutoCAD manual out.
Yeah, AutoCAD manual out. I've got my podcast manual out now. I know what I'm doing there, or I don't know what I'm doing there. It keeps you learning, developing new things. It kind of keeps you relevant, whether you're whatever kind of point you are in your career. I would say, I think I said to you, there's an element of me is kind of imposter syndrome. Oh my God, I've gone from there and I've got to here. So you have to kind of make sure you're on point. You've kind of done your research. You're kind of learning, and I think that kind of element to it keeps us exciting
and grounded as well at the same time. I think, without doubt, it keeps you grounded. Knowing that you're still learning and you don't know everything keeps you grounded, no matter how far you can get in your career.
I think that's some. If someone says they know everything, well, you're kind of one man doing or one woman doing one thing.
Yeah.
You know, I am nothing without the team around me. You know, the team that, as I said to you, the best moment in my career is working with a team of people that have got around. We have our moments, but fundamentally, you know, they're an amazing bunch, and you know, seeing what we can do is kind of spectacular. And we see some of the projects that we've done are just, you know, they're amazing themselves, but they are challenging. If you were doing them in the UK, you'd be scratching your head wondering how you're doing it. And we've done amazing projects in kind of Germany where we don't talk about kind of clients, but an automotive company who are needing their kind of classic car area renovated, the training suite. So we had ramps where they can kind of bring them in. You know, it's kind of an engineering side to it as well as kind of creating, kind of office training space and those ones. So, you know, any kind of problem child that any client out there might have, come and have a chat with us. We can absolutely kind of knock it over with the team that we've got, wherever it might be. You know, our biggest project, about 120,000 square feet, was Budapest, in a project there. So, I mean, that's a big scale, big massive project, and that's kind of 500 miles away.
I think we're going to leave it on that, Lee.
Okay.
Leave it on your sales pitch. You planned that one.
Thank you very much.
I'm only joking, but mate, it's been brilliant to have you on. Listen to your journey, fascinating journey as well. Like, obviously, you've been almost every single area of the design and build industry.
Yes, it feels like it.
And with some lofty goals, as I put it, going forward. Nice. So thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story and your insights on the industry. It was fascinating. Thanks so much, Lee.
No, thank you. It's been tremendous. Thank you very much.
No worries at all.